Okay, folks, this one we're going to entitle When the Nut Cutting Starts, when the nut cutters come out. Alright, this morning I'm getting messages from CIA deep state whistleblower Susan Lindauer. And apparently, they've run her basically into the ground for exposing the secret weapons trafficking operations of Bush, Clinton, Obama, and even old Donald J. Trump's up to it. Now, apparently she's in some difficult financial times like everybody else, except for that 1% of the 1%. And she's on the rocks over her mortgage in her house, and well, she's in a bankruptcy court. Bankruptcy courts can be very, very difficult when the nut cutting starts. Now, Miss Lindauer, I want you to pay close attention. The reality of Comey and Mueller, I don't know, I guess we're having trouble. Let's see if we can get this in here. It won't even show. Yeah, there we go. The reality of the scamming banksters of the CIA, this is how they finance all those international weapons transfers and move all kind of, shoulder launch and vehicles and 50 caliber, mounted the heavy machine guns. And let's see, what else, what other kind of weapon systems are they moving? The mortars and you name it. Communications equipment, uniforms, medical supplies. My understanding is they're moving everything from Humvees to Blackhawks. And even fighter aircraft, F-16s are winding up in Israel to fight with Syria over, making Israel a much bigger place. That's what this whole thing in Syria is about. They want to expand Israel and take over Syria, just like they took over Palestine. But that's kind of a Buckingham Palace, Balmoral Castle, Lord Rothschild subject. That's a whole other video. Now, to my friends in America, listen closely. The wheel locks and the Wentworths, old John Wentworth, and mad, crazier than a loon, King George III. King George III and the establishment of the Indian educational schools in Vermont. Now, when I said that, you're going, what the heck has that all got to do with Susan Lindauer and the missing gabillions? Well, at Dartmouth College, Wentworth and the Wheelocks and the whole gang there, they were the brainwashing tool. The brainwashing tool, the tool. Let's see here. The brainwashing tool to turn the nuts and the bolts of the British Empire's indoctrination and brainwashing apparatus in the colonized, there's that colonia word again, when they colonized the 13 colonies. They came over from the London Corporation there at, Balmoral Castle. They came over from London, the Temple City, and they invaded Turtle Island by fiat and royal decree, because everybody knows that Lex Rex, the king is the law, applies in the Roman Empire. Oh, wait a minute. Did I say American Empire? Oh, wait a minute. You mean the British? Oh, the Dutch Empire? By fiat and decree, executive orders. Ask Donald Trump and Jeff Sessions and Mike Pence there. They'll explain executive orders. the fiat and the decree, the proclamation of the king and the queen. Now to Susan Lindauer, I want to give you some good news. The people that you're beginning to talk with now are experts in just how it is they pulled off this giant financial looting, this never before seen in all of human history looting of the Americas. You've got some of the most spectacular false statements from lying federal agents that you can possibly imagine involved in this unbelievable fiat slavery. I'm sorry, folks. But the Federal Reserve has really stepped into it now, because you see, this is how they move all those weapons and make it possible for the looting of the nation while all these weapons are being moved all over the world. Isn't this correct? Hillary Clinton. And boy, this old mustache needs a trimming, I guess. Hillary Clinton and the State Department and the Foundation and the CIA and apparently the Pentagon and those black-bagging black operators of the clandestine services associated with Oliver North, Richard Secord, Ferdinand and Imelda Marcos, and Manuel Noriega, and old Gene Hoffenfuss, and Charlie Wilson. Let's not leave Uncle Charlie out here. Charlie Wilson and Joanna King of Charlie Wilson's War. This whole little gang of boogers, they all kind of collide there in the Murrah building in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, when the Murrah building went boom. And when the World Trade Centers fell down and, you know, World Trade Center 7 got blown up. It's all about the money, folks. Where the trillions and trillions and trillions have gone from the Pentagon. Oh, they can't account for about 9 or 10 trillion over at the Pentagon. And oh, gee, golly whiz, the Federal Reserve can't account for about 9 or 10 trillion. And then, you know, HUD's missing a huge amount of money. And Fannie Mae, the Federal National Mortgage Association, they're missing huge amounts of money. And the FHA, the Federal Housing Administration, Wright, Catherine, Austin, Fitz. And while we're at it, Susan Lindauer, let's see if we can't get Cat Wolford from Bearing Point and Carlyle Group. You know, Cat Wolford and the, let's see. Oh, yeah. The International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Let's bring them into this conversation. And then, of course, every foreclosure fraud fighting organization in America, including, oh, I don't know, Oliver Max Garner. Come on down, Max Garner. And Jeff Thigpen. And Robert O'Brien and Martha Cloakley. And that Kamala Harris out there in California with all these funny, odd, you know, razzle-dazzle paper, fiat, Lex Rex mortgages. These subprime, you know, mortgage-backed securities and all these derivatives and these funny, odd little pretender servicers and pretender lenders. And then, of course, you've got every bankruptcy trustee and every bankruptcy court in America that's in this up to their eyeballs. Because everybody knows it's all based on shin plaster. It's like getting kicked in the shins. Shin plaster. Look it up. Do a little research. Pull a couple of books and study what fiat, you know, razzle-dazzle, imagineered money is. Thank you, Jon Stewart of Comedy Central. They did this segment one night on, it was called The Big Bank Theory. And very, very informative, actually, on how the money system in the United States is nonsensical, fantastical, and delusional, is King George III of Britain there, declaring that all the trees in America belong to the king and the queen. in the King's Woods and the Queen's Forest there. That's to all my First Nations Turtle Island Native American friends. Susan Lindauer, one of the more high-profile CIA whistleblowers, and Tosh Plumley, my old buddy Tosh. I love Robert Tosh, boy. I'll tell you, he's a riot. Rodney Stitch, Bob Harmon. Oh, heck, I'm even buddies with Gene Tatum. Gene Tatum, come on down, buddy. We're going to have us a couple of beers with Matt Tavey and David Dayan and Richard Bowen and Casey Tuckness. And we can even bring Judge Barb Allen Sadler into this mess. And then, of course, you know, when the nut cutting starts, we can even bring in the Texas Court of Appeals in Beaumont, Texas, and we can talk about what contracts to land are. What are contracts to land? Judge Stephen McKeithen, formerly of the Montgomery County Confederate Air Force. Old Conroe, Texas, boy, what a place. That in the woodlands. We can bring old Nelda Luce Radabow Blair. Come on in, Nelda. We have us a discussion about all these funny real estate deals and the King's Wood. I mean the King's Trees, excuse me. We don't want to talk about wood in a family hour video about nut cutting. The old financial actuaries. Hillary Clinton, the financial actuaries of moving all these black ops around. Now, I don't want to pick too much on the Western banks in Houston there, the old Western Bank gang there, next to the Galleria Mall. Isn't that interesting? Oliver North and Richard Secord and John Poindexter and Bill, well, I guess Bill Casey's dead. Robert Owens, I'm sure Robert Owens is still out there with the Bushes. Oh, man, the Bushes are still in Houston, right, George? You got W and Big H operating there in the old Swiss banking capital of Westgate Investments, RLG Holdings, right? Right there in old Westheimer in Houston, Texas. In the heart of the Bush, Clinton, Obama, and now even Donald Trump knows it. Donald Trump knows very well about black financial operations to support black weapons movements. Don't you, Donald J. Trump? He knows damn well. And there's a lot of other people that know it too. A whole bunch of other people that know it too. Because, I mean, if you're going to send a few plane loads of, you know, trucks and 50 calibers and shoulder launch missiles and a bunch of hand grenades and a bunch of AK-47s, and you're going to move all kind of freaking Humvees and trucks and everything else around the world. No wonder Hillary Clinton lost $6 billion. That's $6,000 million. $6 billion. That's a lot of money. That's a whole lot of money. That's not 600 million. That's 6,000 million bucks there that she misplaced. Let's not get this backwards there. The State Department can't account for 6 billion, give or take, you know. I guess maybe it was all in those computers in the Pentagon that got hit by the missile. Isn't that what Don Rumsfeld said there? Old Don Rumsfeld and, you know, Wolfowitz and Dr. Rice and Colin Powell and, you know, the whole gang there when the Pentagon accounting computer section got hit with a missile. All those financial records went poof. Just exactly like the Murrah building in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma went boom. There's another one for you, folks. They got rid of the evidence. Not only surrounding the Waco matters, but surrounding the weapons trafficking that was going on in Waco. And all the funny little oil and gas financial shenanigans of the oil field in the western United States. Huge amounts of financial records went boom when the Murrah building got blown up. Just a little while there before they blew up the World Trade Centers, and they imploded and pulled World Trade Center 7. Now, folks, back to Susan Lindauer. She has been part of a chorus, a great number of people in America that have asked a lot of questions about how the Clintons and the Bushes and the Reagans and Admiral Poindexter and Bud McFarlane. Let's not leave out Bud McFarlane, my old buddy from Glens Falls. And then, of course, we got Gerald Solomon and Kevin Brady. Let's bring Gerald Solomon and Kevin Brady. And we can bring Joe Barton, you know, cluck, cluck, cluck. Old Joe Barton, the chicken choker. Joe Barton from Conroe. And we can bring in a lot of people into this discussion, can't we? Judge Alan Barb Sadler, along with the Golden Hammer of Conroe, the Golden Hammer, and the Conroe Courier, and especially let's give some tribute to Lacey Olson, the special investigative reporter with the Houston Chronicle. And, you know, we can go back and give accolades to the former Houston Post. But that's kind of a whole nother video about black money, black operations, black wars, and silent weapons of the financial industry. Who exactly are the puppet masters over at the Federal Reserve? And all right, we're gonna wind this one up, folks. There's a bunch of links below. You can find the links below. I want you to do a little study on specie and legal tender and shin plaster. And then you'll start beginning to see that when King George III declared all the wood, all the trees in the King's Forest, he really was crazy. Just like John Wentworth and the Wheelocks there at Dartmouth University, the Indian reorientation, brainwashing, indoctrination schools of Vermont. Oh, and they ran them in Canada too, up in Nova Scotia. That's to Janine M. Myers and my friends with Wesley Dick and Nene and a lot of my other First Nations friends. The brainwashing indoctrination schools of Vermont and Nova Scotia, where they went after the people of the long houses. I said that correctly. This has been going on, Susan Lindauer, since the British showed up from the Temple in London. Folks, I'm going to leave it right there. Buckingham Palace and Balmoral Castle. Take your Balfour Declaration and put it where the sun never shines. Ladies and gentlemen, hasta la vista. God bless, and you betcha we will be coming back.